Thank you for joining me today. To everybody who doesn't know, Jay Kinder, he's a force in real estate. He's an entrepreneur, he's a leader, he's been a coach nationwide, and he coaches people all over the world. I got to meet Jay first when I started real estate back in 2008, and he was just this guy. I saw billboards all over town, and he was all over a bunch of for sale signs, and I hadn't planned on getting into real estate till I did, and later was approached to join his team, and we'll kind of get into that. He started the National Association of Expert Advisors. For those of you in real estate, you'll be familiar with that, and has written several books, including The Miracle Morning, co-written The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents, The Rise in Real Estate, and The New Rise in Real Estate, and Cracking the Real Estate Code, among some other books. And right now he's a big guy with EXP doing a lot of coaching. So thank you, Jay, for doing this first interview with me.
It's a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you. I told you I'm nervous, so hopefully I'll get these shakes out here.
Right. You're doing great.
Thank you. So we kind of start, your dad used to be a farmer, right?
Yeah.
Johnny Kinder.
Yep.
Now,
he was
what town
Chattanooga, Oklahoma. He was from Chattanooga, Oklahoma, population about 700. And so he got into real estate in 1977, which was the year I was born. So he was, a farmer / real estate agent. So, that was his intro into real estate.
And so, he kind of made the big jump to the big city of Lawton, which was probably around 70,000 when you moved?
Right. Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
So you grew up, do you even remember the farming, or you grew up just?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I remember, all the farming and all that, and helped out, and stuff like that with the hired hands and all that good stuff. So that was something I was familiar with. I went to a small town, Walters, Oklahoma. So, I always tell people I graduated in the top 25 of my class, but there was only 36 of us. So that's my claim to fame. And then I'm, ultimately moved to Lawton as well.
Nice. And so when you moved to Lawton, that was when he started his brokerage? Was he doing it first time?
Yeah, he had always had the brokerage in Lawton. He just drove back and forth. And so after I graduated high school, I actually mowed yards for my dad for years. And that was, primarily just, he gave me the yards that were people that skipped out on the rent and didn't mow the yard all summer long. So I got all those kinds of yards. And one day when I was 19, I guess at the time. And I saw a guy by the name of Rusty Williams, and he was getting a check for like $500 or $5,300 something or something like that. And I was like, man, what did this guy do? He didn't seem to be like that. Didn't look like he did much work that day. So I was like, well, maybe there's something to this commission thing. I'll get my $400 check for mowing yards, and this guy's getting $5,000. So I was like, well, maybe I should consider real estate at that time.
Nice. So you started at 19. Now, what was it like for you as a 19-year-old, all of a sudden making thousands and thousands of dollars? I'm sure that, you probably didn't make the most responsible decisions. But what was that like?
Right. Yeah. Well, the first year there wasn't making no thousands and thousands of dollars. That's for sure. I think the first couple of years were, a lot of figuring it out, right? Like just like anything else that you're doing, trying to figure out how do you get clients? How do you actually, get listings? That was a challenge. I think it is for most agents. And so I struggled through the first year or two trying to figure that out, and ultimately, investing in, different systems and things, and trying to, find ways to, to build the business. And it was a challenge, I think, for the first couple of years. But, I didn't know. I think what inspired me the most about real estate at the time was they had, as funny as it sounds, they had a leaderboard in the office, and this guy by the name of Tom King was at the top of the leaderboard. And Tom King was pretty good. You could tell he was a pretty good, real estate agent, pretty good at sales. And I just wanted to beat him. there was something about him. I just wanted to beat him. And so you could get stars for different activities. Like you take a listing or you put a house under contract.
Like a kindergarten teacher.
Right. Yeah. It was pretty much, that's pretty much it. And for whatever reason, the competitive nature in me, that drove me as much as any of it. I wanted to just beat Tom King.
Yeah. Was that always part of you? Were you just always competitive, super competitive? That was natural.
I think so. It's hard to say. My high school football team went 0-10. And so that was a really miserable year as a senior to not ever win a game. And I think maybe I just got tired of losing. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. I've always been competitive, from a sports standpoint. and things of that nature. Pretty much anything. I mean, if we're playing checkers, I'm trying to win.
Right.
So that's definitely something that's in me, as far
Mm-hmm.
as, competitive nature. I think that's, something that's been in me since I can remember. I don't like to lose.
Yeah. All right. So you picked up, you started, messing up and doing well and in your 20s. And what was it, you just, what was by 28? I mean, you did well enough. You made Realtor
Yeah.
Magazine's top 30 under 30.
Yeah, I think that I don't remember what year that was. That was 2003. So I don't know how old I was in 2003, but I was under 30, obviously, I guess. But by the time I was 28, I was number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker, and had done that did that for several years in a row, selling 500 plus homes a year. And so yeah, there was quite a bit of at a young age, quite a bit of success, I would say, probably from really about 22, 23 on. I was making a lot more money than I ever dreamed I was going to have. And yeah, and it's funny because you think, oh, you must have these big goals and stuff. And I remember the first time I ever wrote down goals, my 5-year goal was only $50,000 a year. And so
Mm-hmm.
I remember, my dad passed out this, goal setting thing that Coldwell Banker had. And my goal that year was 35,000, but my 5-year goal was only 50,000. I remember looking back at it. In fact, I have it in my closet here still. That all my goals for all those years, the first, at least 10 or 12 years. And so it's not like I was this big thinking, I'm going to make so much money in real estate, like not initially at least.
Yeah.
But then I start, every year I would set these goals, and then, you reverse engineer, like, okay, well, how many listings do you need to take and how many buyers do you need to take? And like, man, that's not that many. I can do that. And every year I would hit the goal, and it was like, man, this is really not that hard, to do. And so I just became, very diligent about always setting goals, because that was how I figured out how I was going to get to that next rung on the ladder, so to speak. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was part of the process that I went through every year.
So at what point did you say, I want more than Lawton? Because you owned Lawton for a while. You owned Lawton real estate. You were everywhere. At what point did you say, I need more? That competitive
Yeah.
nature really kind of kick in and said, I can do more. There's more.
Yeah.
What was that turning point?
Yeah. Great question. So it's funny because I remember one time, it was, and to be fair, I was never number 1, even in Lawton, right? So I was number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker, number 2 in my own market. We had a
Okay.
Remax team that was, I mean, they were just, they're a force to be reckoned with. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
And so, they sold 700 homes a year when I was selling 500 a year. So I was never even number 1 in my own market, which just pisses me off, to be honest.
But
like,
it was
just,
you. To give you credit,
yeah.
you were one person. There was 2 of them, right?
Yeah. You can say that, but you're still, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you still came in second. And
Yeah.
as much as I remember one time I was in an elevator, and Alex Perillo, who was the CEO of Coldwell Banker at the time, and I just happened to be in the elevator with him. And I don't remember why, but I told him, I said, listen, I'm going to be the number 1 agent in Oklahoma. And that was before I was even close to being the number 1 agent in Oklahoma. And I did, I ended up hitting that goal. And for some reason I felt compelled to tell him that. But so there, I think at one point I wanted to, if there was a leaderboard, I wanted to be at the top of it. And they have all these awards in real estate, that, you can be, whatever in the region or whatever. And so, I was driven, from a competitive standpoint to just try to win. And, it wasn't so much about the money, because you don't make a lot of money selling real estate in Lawton, Oklahoma. I mean, the average sale price is like $135,000. So,
Now.
you make the money was a byproduct, and you get to buy, have nice stuff or whatever. But that wasn't really what was driving me. Wasn't the money. It was really more just the competitive nature of like, how do I do more? How do I get better?
So at what point then did you decide you wanted to do more than just for yourself? I mean, because I was for, doing something, I want to be number 1. At what point,
right.
Because when I met you, at the time that I met you, you were already, that was your goal, was to provide value to other people.
Mm-hmm.
You were really big on that. And I'll just say, well, we can talk about when we first met. I remember my story. Like I said, I'd chosen to get divorced with 4 kids, take on a bunch of debt, and I stayed in Lawton, Oklahoma. And I had been told you would be a good realtor. So I said, okay, let me try it. So I got my license. Next thing I knew, I had a key to all these houses. Your dad gave me a key to the building. I'm like, they don't come from where I come from. They're just letting me into all these houses. So I was going to start. And I started under somebody who I will not name. But he said, someone retired Army, that I looked up to and respected, and said, he'll hold my hand, teach me everything, because I was nervous. I'm 4 kids, and I'm in a commission only career now with a bunch of debt. I got to raise them, and I didn't know the market was going to crash. And so we get into it, and this man, all I could remember was he could not stand you. It was just a matter of, Jay's this party boy and this womanizer, and stay away from Jay, and he's all about money, and his agents don't know anything, and I just he was all I knew in real estate, my elder, and
Right.
so I wanted to respect everything he said. And the first people I got, they came in from El Paso. It was a military couple, and you had some houses, and I've been scoping. I mean, I'm not, stupid. I'm a pretty intelligent woman, and knew how to, on my own, look at houses, see what they were for square foot, and figure out what's bad. And you had some new construction listed. And there was some over on Malcolm. I can't remember the name of the builder, but there was over in that area. And he did not want me to show those. No, they're made, and then you had some others in another area, and he says, no, those aren't made well, and so the next day they came in, he said, my builder will show you, he'll build something. So they came in specifically to meet his builder and see what he could build for them. And his builder said no, that he couldn't do it. And they stormed out and they left. And I literally ran out after the buyer, and I said, stop, I know what you want. I know what's on the market. I can help you. I had to apologize for him. So we got in my car and we drove. And so I'm now without supervision as a realtor, brand new realtor, not knowing what I'm doing. And I'm showing them houses, and thank goodness you had it set up. You had, your person set up to write the contracts and stuff. And one of your houses were exactly what they wanted. And so we went to sit down to write this contract. And she looks at me and she goes, okay, where's your disclosures? And I don't know what face I made, but she was so kind. And she said, it's okay, and handed them some papers to sign, and wrote me a little note and said, take this to your office and ask them for these papers. So I went over there and I did that, and I went home and I cried, and I still wasn't going to give up. And I tried it on my own. I left his help. I didn't need his help. Right. And I tried it on my own. And then I remember you had Willie. He came over a couple of nights. And he's like, Jay wants to meet you. He says, come and meet him. And what are you doing? And I said, no, I want my commission. And I was determined to get my, and he's like, well, what's 0% of zero?
Right.
And he kind of talked me over. So, but it was amazing to go to your team. I think a big part of it, there was this, I don't know if you remember me telling you this, when there was a time we were in your office, and maybe you don't remember, but I was like, you're meant for big things. You're going places. Like you're going to have, do you even remember that?
Yeah, I do.
No.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. But you could feel that because your energy and because you were driven, and you just don't see that drive in everybody. And that was one of the things that you did with me and with your other agents was, you valued us. I remember you saying, you can be a better agent than me. And you always had the tell me what you need and I'm there for you. That was kind of always what do you need? If you need something, come get me. And so sorry for the long story, that's a journey, but that's how we met, was just kind of this big, in your team. So when did you say, you know what, I'm going to start adding value to others? That's important to me.
There was a mentor along the way by the name of Jay Abraham, and he taught kind of this philosophy of the strategy of being preeminent, and being the best, doing the best that you possibly can to serve others, and thinking about your business in that way first, and so it was something that I think I kind of inherently did, but didn't really have it as a basis. Like, this is the foundation, adding value to people's lives. And that's how you build from there. And so, yeah, it was really introduced to me from Jay Abraham. I really gravitated to the way he taught things. And it just became evident the more I would, in every area of my life, looking back, and every area of my life from that point forward, the more value that I focus on adding to people's lives, the more that it came back, and regardless of whether, you expected it to or not, it was just a way of life, really. Right. And so, like, in any instance, how do you add value to people's lives? And, from our vendors and people that, that did business with us, and agents that joined the team, that was that was what was more fulfilling. It wasn't more fulfilling to go sell another house. It was more fulfilling to see somebody like you that gets into real estate and then becomes successful at a high level. That to me is making a bigger impact, if you will, in the world than just me selling another house. Like, I'd sold enough houses. I think at that point I was more interested in helping other people do that too.
Yeah, yeah. So you took everything you learned, you took all the mistakes that you made, I mean, and you decided to make well, actually, let me skip back to that. You decided to start a coaching company, but you did that with your partner, Mike Reese.
Yeah.
When and how did you meet Mike Reese? How did
Yeah.
that?
So me and Mike went, we went to like one semester of college together. I think that we both, maybe went to 2 semesters each of college. And then Mike moved out to Dallas, Texas, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. I barely knew him. I didn't know him really well, but we had a class together, and I hung out with him a few times. And we ran into each other at Lake Texoma about 3 or 4 years later. And at the time, I had a pretty good sized boat for a younger guy, 35-foot fountain, which was like my passion, was boats and stuff. And so he's like, man, he's like, is that your boat or your dad's boat? I was like, this is my boat. He said, what do you do? I said, I sell real estate. And then, man, that was it. After that, we talked all day about real estate. And Mike's the kind of guy, he didn't mess around. He quit his job managing a Bally's Total Fitness and got right into real estate. And he called me literally every day for as long as I can remember. And he, and if you'd asked me what I had done to be successful in real estate, I couldn't have told you, because I did so many things that didn't work. And then every once in a while something would work that, you don't really remember. Like, it's like that, you see the line to success goes like this, and then there, right? Like, that's really what it is. And so, I couldn't have probably told someone how to be successful in real estate at that point. At least not from scratch exactly how to do it. And so that was, step by step, I ended up helping him. And he grew his business to like $1 million in gross commission in 3 years, which it took me 6 years to get there. I was like, holy cow, this is pretty amazing. You can not make all the mistakes, do the right things in the right order, and like to really grow fast. It's pretty impressive. And so, that was pretty inspiring to see that. And we both kind of felt like, after a few years, we both kind of felt like, man, there's got to be another level, like something. We wanted to kind of do something together. We, didn't really know what it looked like, but we knew there was more opportunity out there, and we just kind of jived together pretty well. So that was kind of the goal, was to do something together. And we started with an idea of opening a brokerage, and then we ended up opening, Kinder Reese. We're going to end up being real estate coaching was the primary, what we ended up doing.
Right. Now, I always think of the two of you together. They say some of the most historic couples, whether they're bank robbers or whatnot, whoever, that they're, right. It was the fact of the two of them meeting up. It was like alone, they wouldn't have been, the same. Right. Do you think that you would be in the same place without, and he would be in the same? I mean, you would both be successful.
Yeah, but I don't think, I think we fed off each other really well. I mean, it's, I tell people all the time, especially with our kids, we're always like, hey, they're 5, who are their friends? We wouldn't let them hang out with people that are a bad influence. But as adults, sometimes we don't kind of hold ourselves to that same standard around who we spend time with. And I was just fortunate. Mike is an animal. I mean, the guy's just, he's just on another level. And so like, he really forces me to raise my game. And so, just about the time, right. Like he's just got an internal drive about him like nothing else. And it seems like this is like last Wednesday, I was on the road, New Jersey, and 2 cities in New Jersey, then Baltimore, then Virginia. Well, Wednesday was Baltimore, and I was traveling. It was up late, and doing these events, speaking all day or whatever. And I was just like, man, I'm going to sleep in. I think this morning the covers were feeling pretty good, and I was going to skip that workout. And sure as shit, Mike texted me and asked me if I was going to work out. And I was like, God dang it. I got to step, I got to step up. You know what I'm saying? Like I got to either I can tell him no, which I'm not going to do because I know better. It's not, I knew I needed to hit the workout. So it's just like having those people around you that force you to level up. And, I think that's why we were able to persevere, and we haven't really talked about the downs, like it's easy to talk about all the successes, but my gosh, we had probably more struggle. We lived in the struggle. I mean, the whole opportunity started off in the struggle. And when I talk about the struggle, I mean, that's where, like if you're not in the struggle in some way in your life, then you're probably just comfortable. And so like
Yeah.
most of my life, I've been in the struggle, like pressing up against the struggle and embracing that, because that's where the growth happens. And so like, when you joined the team, even it was, 2008, in 2007, the downturn started. 2008 was the worst of it. I experienced the worst financial, I think it's the worst. It might be. I had two of them. I got a few peaks and some really good valleys in the story, right? Like, I lost most of my team. Ended up leaving as I'm starting this new company, and we're writing checks to it to get it started. I lost, my right hand guy, my top three agents, a listing coordinator, and my business partner on all my developments on every. We had new construction and
Let's
flips
talk
and
about that for a
all that
second.
stuff. Right.
They say, and this would be good advice, I think, for a lot of up and coming agents for sure, which, we know is, but they say more money, more problems. And, maybe it's because you create more risks, and because the wrong people want to get attracted to you and whatnot. And people get greedy. And right after I started the company, I remember all of a sudden there was this dramatic situation happening, and people around didn't know what was going on, and basically what it was at the time for us, your people sold you out. They took your business plan, and they started a brand. They left you.
Yeah.
They said, we're going to take everything Jay built, and we're going to go here, and with no warning, and just went and filed and started a new company, and with everything that you built off of your sweat and tears.
Right.
Talk about that. How did that?
So, man, what a lesson too. So I had been, driving back and forth to Dallas with this new business, and so I was there some days, and then some days I'd be in Dallas, and spending most of my time still at this time. I was still spending most of my time in Oklahoma, but I found out, one of the employees told me that that she thought that several of them were going to be leaving the company. So I put some spy software on all the computers. Found out that they basically took my business plan, went to my bank, and submitted the similar exact plan to the banker, and was going to be opening a company. They hadn't done it yet, but I found out a little bit ahead of time. So I went in and fired my right hand guy on the spot. Videoed the whole thing. I've never been that angry.
That's such a Jay Kinder move right there.
Yeah, man. I was. That was back when the little flip camera had just come out. And I put it back on the desk, and I asked him what, I just couldn't believe it, right? Like I was in a disbelief, and betrayed is probably the only word that would really describe it. But like just
hurt.
Taken back by it, hurt. Yeah, I mean, and it took me a year to really like grasp what happened, why it happened. And so, in any situation, I've had a couple of questions that I've learned to ask that really change the outcome and the way you look at things. And one of those questions is, what else, what else could it mean is another one, but in this situation, it was what could I have done differently? And, instead of feeling betrayed, when you ask what else could I have done differently, I kind of instantly knew the answer. The answer was I could have led my team better. I could have connected the dots. They saw opportunity for themselves, and they didn't see opportunity in what we were doing anymore. And they saw me going to Dallas, working on this new opportunity that wasn't in alignment with necessarily. I didn't clearly share the vision of how this coaching company and this real estate company were going to coexist, and why they were important, and how that was going to create opportunity for everybody. Now, ultimately, I ended up getting my right-hand guy back about a year later. I came to the conclusion that this was a leadership gap on my end, and that my people would have left me, not like they did anyways, had I connected the vision to their opportunities and made sure that they understood that this was something that we were doing together. And even though, I was going back and forth to Dallas, it didn't, there was opportunity in that for them. So I didn't align the vision. And that was a leadership gap that I didn't accept, or like when it first happened. But a year later, as I'm looking back, as I'm learning and growing, and trying to, become a better leader, that, that was something that had I been leading my people better, I would have certainly never had them just walk out. I would have, they would have known that there was an opportunity, and that was the goal. And I got my right hand guy back, and he's making about 6 times, 7 times more money than he ever would have in Lawton, Oklahoma. So there was opportunity there, and it was aligned, and eventually it all worked out. But it took a really big setback. Of course, with that came that during the downturn, all of that's happening. Plus, I started another company. Plus, the guy we hired to run the company in Dallas decided to take us off of paychecks and didn't pay the payroll taxes for the employees. And we had a $115,000 tax lien. It got so bad in 2008, I actually canceled my Netflix. That's the only way I can describe it. Like, if you think your shit's gotten really tight before, like if you've ever canceled Netflix, that's where I was. It was that close to, I never missed a payment on anything, but I was that close to folding, like completely not making it. And it was like that for about 2 years. And I was still paying debt back up until 2010. We finally paid it all back. But it was, all I can tell you is, like, when you go through something that tough for that long, you come out of it and you survive, and you're like, you know what, I could, little things don't bother you anymore. You're like, oh yeah, well, it could be 2008 again. Right. Like, it's not that bad. Right. Like, you can really, and there's nothing you can do. I remember laying in bed, and I just really probably started dating Amber, and I was laying in bed, and I finally decided to, like, add up, like, how bad it was. Cause when we split up the company with all these, I ended up with all the real estate and the rental properties and all this kind of stuff. And I had this bad debt, and it added up to like $638,000 in debt that I amassed through 07, 08. And I just remember thinking, I don't know how I'm going to pay it back. Like, I just don't know how I'm going to do it. And I tapped out on everything. There was nowhere to squeeze. And I was like, all I can do is just every day get up and do the daily things to, chip away that, ultimately you're going to chip away at it. And, and that's all, that's what I did, and it was tough, but, like, once you realize, okay, you can't just stick your head in the sand and pretend like you're not in this situation. You gotta get up, and you gotta go at it as hard as you've ever gone at it, and claw your way back out of it. Right. And so that was it.
So whether you're in real estate or not, that's just it doesn't matter. You don't have to know how, you don't know how, what's going to happen. Nobody at that time, everybody was scared of the market at that time. But we never seen that. We never seen that in our history. No. So, just show up and do what you can.
Right. You don't, you can either, you can't back into the corner and just cower down and not come back out swinging. You got to come out swinging. And what happens is you get momentum, and, you one little thing leads to another little opportunity. And eventually, you start to, opportunity starts to show back up again. You're doing all the work, and things start to, started doing short sales, started purchasing some short sales, partnered with my dad onto some of those, which at that time, the last thing in the world I wanted to do was be business partners with my dad. Like, we're two polar opposites. And so, like,
but he had what to do with short sales. I'm like, yes.
Right. But he had the money, and I had the deals. And so, and I could have found probably anybody as a business partner. So I partnered with my dad, and, he didn't do anything but provide the money. He got half the deal, and then I made a little bit. So I got to chip away a little bit, and then I got to the point where, the banker I freed up enough that I could do deals on my own. And then, I started flipping some more properties, and, eventually got out of it. But, then, we continued to obviously sell real estate, but that was, it was tough, man. It was a tough time. But I would tell you today, I would not trade that for anything. That experience of going through all that helped me with everything.
I remember, just to spill a little tea. I remember, that was when I left your team about the time. And in retrospect, I didn't know any of that. I don't think any of us knew any of what was going on. And you look back at it now, it's like, whoa, he had all kinds of stuff going on.
Right.
That I guess shielded us from, and we're just trying to, manage, and to manage, as most of anybody who's been through anything difficult, the best way to manage is to not run around and talk about it. It's to, handle it. And you were handling stuff. And so I just remember catching you on a bad day. And I think I asked a question even jokingly. It was in text, and it had to do with the deal. Do you remember what happened?
I don't remember exactly what happened, but I do remember it being in text, and I probably took it out of context, which is much like what, anytime you're reading a text, you can't take it.
I think so, but I also think, and I think I'll tell you exactly what you said to me. You said, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. And I was like, bye.
Right.
Bye.
Not the thing to say not the thing to say to you. That's for sure.
Right. I mean, because you're the one who always taught me, you push people, you either use pleasure or pain,
Right.
to persuade people. And for me, it's pleasure, because you say pain, I'm going down, we're going to fight. It's going to happen. It's like, we're going
Right.
to, and so, if you say, oh, you can have this, I'm like, oh, let's do that. But it was the journey also that I needed to go on. It was time. But, looking back, it's like, just had a lot of stuff going on, and it rubbed him the wrong way. And I think we both could have probably had a talk and talked it out in one conversation.
Right. For sure. For
so,
sure.
It has so many more questions. I mean, excited, you up right after that. And I guess that was during the transition, because this, I think, was December 2010 when that happened. So shortly after that, you were making your move to Texas.
Yep.
Okay. And that's when Kinder Reese kind of really blew up, right?
Yeah.
When was your second, you mentioned having a second big loss?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, we built, the coaching and training company up to ultimately, I think at its peak, was doing close to 10 million in revenues. And so it was definitely the bigger opportunity, but, in all of that, and learning to manage and grow a company to that size, there's just so much more. Like, more money, more problems is not an understatement. I mean, it really is an understatement, I think, because you just don't know what you don't know when you're playing at a different level. We had different revenue streams from selling different products and things of that nature, and ultimately, I think, as far as, it didn't have, I think the challenge that I had was probably the biggest. Maybe not the downside wasn't as far down as what it was in 07, 08, but like, I remember just, we had a couple different product lines, and one of them we were kind of pivoting to, and we were selling a tremendous number of these of this monthly, service for lead generation for agents. And I remember, we started getting these chargebacks, and well, we didn't even measure chargebacks, so I'd never had one before. We didn't even really look at it. And so it was and we started getting more of them. And then our merchant account calls and said, hey, we're going to take a couple $100,000 out of your, out of the monies that are coming in from all these sales to hold back in case these people do a chargeback and you don't have the money to give them, is basically how they make those decisions.
Right.
And so, so then we had to but it put us in a position where we had to refund money to anyone for any reason, because we couldn't afford a chargeback, because it was going to put us in a position where our merchant account might close down, and then we couldn't collect money. So that would have been an even bigger problem. So this was, we're in excess of 800,000 a month in revenues, and so when you take 200,000 out this month, and then you do that again the next month, it'll cripple the company, and it just about killed us. I mean, as far as a company, I mean, if anybody would have been following and looking at our P&Ls and watching, how we were managing the money and everything during this period, we were literally giving back clients hundreds of thousands of dollars in a month, because we couldn't afford to then get pissed off and cancel. And the bottom line was, we sold products to agents that we shouldn't have sold anything to, because they weren't in a financial position to be successful. And it was a low enough price product that they all wanted it, but they didn't, they get leads and then they wouldn't call them, or they would want to cancel, and they didn't know us, they didn't have a relationship with us. So they would just cancel or charge back or whatever. And so it was a total catastrophe for about 6 months, trying to manage that with with limited funds coming in to do it. So there's just a big challenge that took about 6 months to kind of come out of, but it almost ended us once again. Like, I mean, we were on the edge of death, and so close to death that, like, anyone else would have said, let me take your let me check your heart rate. Oh, you're dead already. Like, there's no way you're going to survive. You might as well just close the doors. But we made it. So that we've been through that a few times in business, and you just, you learn and you do everything you can to figure it out. And when you got the right people around you, we had 40 or 50 employees, and some of the people that were in the company at the time were so good. I mean, they were so amazing. you'd want to be in a foxhole with them, like they'll fight, they'll stay up, they'll do whatever it takes. And you come out of something like that and you look over to your left and your right and you're like, you know what, I'd do anything for you. I'd do anything for you. You're like, those are the kind of people you like to work with. So yeah, but you always learn something in those situations. But yeah, it was definitely another, just another one of those, challenges that you have to overcome in business.
You had shared, and I copied it. You had shared a Kobe quote on your Instagram, and I posted it on my Facebook. He talks about do what you love, and you always said that. You've always said if it's not fun, we're not doing it, and do what you love. And I'm really at that place in life where I'm trying to just find out what I'm really, do what I'm really passionate about, what I really care for. Right. What inspires you now? I mean, we're in our 40s. It's another whole book of life. Forget chapters. Right. This is a new book. What are you going to be doing over the next 10 years? I mean, there's EXP, but what else? I mean, what's next?
Yeah. So, I think, what inspires me is helping other people. That hasn't changed. So, as I entered my 40s, my kids, I've got still 2 littles, what I'm saying? And so, I do spend more time with them than I ever have with my older kids, at least anyways, just because I'm not as much in the day to day as I've had to be. And so I'm fortunate for that and happy for that. But it's all about like impact. So how do we build something that's going to, have the large, add the most value to the most amount of people, which is why we're at EXP. I mean, the reality is, agents that, that used to pay us thousands. I mean, some of the agents that, they've been with us the longest had paid us over in excess of $100,000 over their career. And we helped them build big businesses, and, they would gladly trade their money for what we gave them over that time. But, now they can do it for nothing. Like they can literally partner with us at EXP and not have to pay all the kind of money that they had to in the past. And the business model takes care of us on the back end, of course, at EXP and revenue share. And so that's been pretty cool. And so, yeah, that's where I'm feeling pulled in that direction of just continuing to add more value, add more value, add more value.
Continuing to add more value to align yourself with the right people. And
right.
So, we'll be closing this up right now. I thank you, but I gave your wife a call. I gave her a little call earlier today.
Oh, you did?
And talked to her. Yeah, I did. I just called Amber and said hi. I asked her for a little statement, and this was what she had to say. She said, I met Jay when there was a huge downturn in the market. Finances were tough, but through it all, he worked harder and harder and used it as an opportunity to learn and get better instead of feeling defeated. Over the last 11 years, life has thrown many curveballs. What he has showed me and others is resilience, to never give up, continue to believe in yourself, and to use every experience to grow. Every day, he wakes up with the passion to want to help others from his success, mistakes, and everything he has learned in his life to help them succeed. He means so much to me, and he has blessed me with being able to be a stay-at-home mommy. To me, he's a leader, friend, my love, hard worker, motivator, and someone who is willing to push you out of your comfort zone to help you bring you to your full potential. That's what Amber had to say.
No, shoot, you got me all teared up over here.
Well, I got in touch with your dad and mom too. Mr. Johnny and Connie Kinder.
Yeah.
They said, I think the thing I'm most proud of is his willingness and desire to help others without expecting anything in return. He understands that life is short and we should make the most of every day and every opportunity we have. He loves his family and he always makes time for them, even with his busy schedule. Johnny and Connie.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I concur, because through all the years all these years we haven't worked together, anytime we reached out, you do this and you get nothing. There's no benefit. You're not getting paid for your time. You just always say, what do you need? What do you need, girl? I got you. This interview, what do you need? And I am thankful for you. And you, Jay Kinder, I see big things for your future. This is just kind of the start, and thank you for the value you bring to me and others. And thank you for your time and this interview.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate you doing this. And this was awesome. So thank you for that.
It was awesome. Thank you. Yep. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good day.
All right. You too.